One, hello, and welcome to a very live, very fun version of the Cool Table podcast, which we don't really actually call it that. These are just our live hangouts, man. This is what we do. We hang
I like
out
how you
on the
called it
internet.
fun before we've even done it. That's
Of course. I don't think I've ever called a hangout not a very special hangout ever. They're always the most special, the most fun.
This one I'm excited to do. Usually if we're talking about Outlander, it was us like,
Those were onerous. And this one will be nice and fun. Hi, I'm Beth. This is Amy. We're part of the co-founders of the Cool Table. This is my margarita. My margarita.
Mine's a grapefruit margarita, also known as a Paloma.
Gorgeous. We're drinking those in honor of Hunter C20. May she rest in peace.
I know. We should have tried to find those fun glasses.
Yeah. These are my fun, like bubble. Those are like those West Elm glasses.
Oh, yeah.
They're fun. Your glass is fun.
I think I won these at a silent auction. Like I won a big giant wine box and a tour of a winery. And then they gave us these glasses that go with it.
Very cute.
Thank you.
If you're with us, say hello in the comments, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook or I guess Twitter. This is on like Periscope as well. So say hi and we will talk back to you. So it's a special interactive version of what we normally do here, which is just talk about Loki. We've been doing it. We've been doing it for 5 weeks straight. And before that, we did Mayor of Easttown, which was 8 weeks. We've been chatting together for like 2 months. No, that's longer than that. How long is that? 3 months?
What is time? What multiverse are we on?
Time will tell. Hi, Sheila or Shelly. I always say Sheila. Shelly, hello.
Hey, Shelly. I'd like to start off tonight by picking a bone with you, Beth.
Do it.
In our last podcast, we were talking about Mobius's car. And I told you that we found out it was a Datsun Bluebird. And during the actual recording of it, you tried to convince me that Datsun was a German car company because it's the name of a dog. And I thought that was hilarious. And then you completely deleted it from the podcast.
I was trying really hard to keep us at an hour. And I had it in for a while, and it was like a whole 6-minute discussion about how you spell Datsun and how it's Japanese and not German. And I had to let it go because I really don't like for the podcast to be longer than an hour.
Okay, fine.
But you can pick that bone all you want. It does sound like I cut out something that made me sound stupid. So
well, then I liked because you're like, well, my dad had a Datsun. Then I was like, well, how the hell did you not know that it was
spelled that way?
Yeah.
Because he had it when I was little. Like
you just remember the name. You don't remember seeing the logo.
Yeah. I don't even really remember the car, but I know we didn't have it past me being like 4 years old.
Okay. Courtney's here.
Hi, Courtney.
Courtney, you must have power. Congratulations. You're one of the few people in Texas who does.
Oh, get you a better grid, girl.
Can you hear my cough drop as I'm like moving it around my mouth?
I cannot. That doesn't mean that everybody else cannot, but I cannot.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm sick.
What will be interesting about this particular hangout is under normal circumstances when we podcast, I take out all of our sniffs and all of our tangents that are too personal.
And our coughs. I'm going to have to mute myself to cough like right now.
Well, yes, if you're going to do it and you know you're going to do it, muting yourself works, but don't forget to dial back in. It's just the two of us tonight. Oh my goodness. So Loki, it ended today. And I feel feelings.
I feel different feelings tonight than I felt this morning. I woke up and watched it right away because I wanted to be on Twitter. Because I knew that the Britney Spears thing was happening today too. So I didn't want to, not be on Twitter today. And so I watched it and I had feelings and then I sat with it. And then my daughter was like, let's watch it. She doesn't know that I watched it twice. I had to act like surprised.
She probably does now. The door's open. She can probably hear you. Okay.
She's in her room. Like she's 12. She's in her cave.
Okay.
And now I feel like I have different feelings or not different, don't know. I'm happier
Yeah.
after the second viewing. And also, spoiler, I'm much happier knowing that there's going to be a second season. I did not catch that on the first run.
Oh, yeah.
And I saw that on Twitter. And then I was like, wait, what? And then I went back and watched the ending credits. And I was like, oh.
You always got to watch the ending credits. You never know. I really thought the ending credits were going to be like super multiversal in terms of like what they were going to show.
Mm-hmm.
So I was ready for it. I even watched like the post credits to make sure there wasn't some little hint of something coming later.
Were you reading the files and stuff, like trying to see, like, is there anything?
I would if I didn't know that someone on the internet will do that for me, and I can just find it by checking the Loki tag on Twitter or TikTok, and I won't have to do it myself. Otherwise, I would have.
Oh, I just swallowed like really loud.
It's okay. No, I didn't do that. I watched it first thing this morning as well because, again, I get my news from Twitter and I can't get on Twitter on a Wednesday morning if I don't want to be spoiled. So I watched it before I did anything else this morning. I watched it with my coffee. And yeah, I felt feelings. And I'm going to go right out of the gate and say that my number one feeling was I love Jonathan Masters. I cannot believe how good his portrayal of He Who Remains was, how into it I was, how much more I wanted from him, and how excited I am that we're going to get so much of him in future MCU in Phase 4.
I like that you're calling him He Who Remains. I'm going to call him one of the other names he called himself, which was a jerk. Now, I just heard you swallow, and I was like, no, everyone can hear me. No, it's not a complaint. Now I'm going to be like super self-conscious.
Maybe I won't drink my margarita.
I mean, I'm going to drink mine because it's going to be my version of NyQuil. I took NyQuil last night, so tonight I won't have to.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to call him Kang, but that is not how he identifies himself or how he's identified in the credits or anything like that. And in reality, I think Kang the Conqueror is who we are getting in like the next Ant-Man movie, Quantumania. And I think he'll be kind of the big bad for the next phase of the MCU. But
is that his name because he's a human? Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that what was his human name? Do we know?
No, his real name is Nathaniel Richards. He is a scientist who there's variants of him or whatever. And the story that he tells about the universes that he finds, that's what everybody expects. That's actually true. The 31st century, all of that. And he is, I believe, the father of Reed Richards, who is Mr. Fantastic of the Fantastic Four.
Okay.
So that's where he comes from. And he is, and what the statue that we see at the end of the TVA, what Loki is staring at, so, horrified by, is actually Kang the Conqueror. That is his outfit. And that looks to be his, his face, his dominant, conquering face. So that is Kang. It's just the version that we met in this episode who was so great is He Who Remains, which is kind of a hybrid between a Kang the Conqueror type variant and a character called He Who Remains, who is the one who's in the Citadel at the end of time and who kind of like, Rip Van Winkle's his whole life back around every time the universe needs to recycle. So it's like they kind of put those two characters together for.
Do we know how he got the name Kang?
Not really. I mean, like I said last week, there's the Avengers Tower that's in the void that has Qeng on it, which, could be pronounced Kang.
Oh.
And that is something that Tony Stark does. He sells the Avengers Tower to the Kang Corporation, and Kang the Conqueror, Kang, comes out of that world building, whatever that is. So it's that's who he is. And I mean, everybody knew that Jonathan
Of
Masters
course.
was going to be playing Kang in Quantumania. That wasn't
Yeah.
new news. So it wasn't like he was a big surprise. But it is kind of a surprise that he's not exactly what everybody thought Kang was going to be. You thought he was going to be Kang the Conqueror, a very Thanos type villain, a kind of major big bad. And instead, he's this kind of charming, mischievous, funny, droll character.
A little bit off.
Yeah.
Off. And also, I thought he was off because he liked Granny Smith apples, because the worst apple on the planet after
Too tart.
Golden Delicious, which are just like a mealy mush.
Golden Delicious are the worst. No, Red Delicious are the worst. Then Golden Delicious, then Granny Smith.
I like a Red Delicious if it's crisp with some peanut butter, but maybe I just like peanut butter.
I never, ever eat a Red Delicious apple. But I used to work at a produce market. That was my first job. I worked there for 3 years. And I saw what the Red Deliciouses looked like when they first come in, when they're supposed to be really good. And they were never good. So only the New Zealand apples, all of the Galas and Fujis and Brayburns and all of those were the good ones. Get your apples from New Zealand, folks. That's what I have to say about that. Not Wisconsin or wherever they are supposed to be from.
Globalism.
Yeah. Yeah. Andy just said that Granny Smith is her fave. That's incorrect. They're good for pie, but they are too tart for regular consumption. Sorry.
I don't think I would. I've never made a fruit pie. I've never made an apple pie.
Oh, we make apple pies all the time in the winter. That's our favorite.
I'm not a pie person.
Speaking of Kang having an apple, this leads us directly into the mythology that this episode kind of sews up really, really well, which is that this show is very, very religious based. It's about kind of, losing your faith. I think it's about crisis of faith. Renslayer even says that Mobius has one at some point. And Kang is very much the devil. He calls himself the devil. He appears to them holding an apple, giving them this ultimatum. You can do this thing together. I mean, Loki and Sylvie become the Adam and Eve to his serpent in this episode. So almost it's Outlander-esque in its blatancy, right? Like the last episodes of Outlander where Jamie's being pinned to a piece of wood by a nail in his hand and gets sacrificed to the evil one to atone for their sins and to let Claire go free. This had that level of, metaphor, religious metaphor going on.
I think they played the line of devil, but also God really well.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel, they keep coming back to the point of, if you say it out loud, it sounds so stupid. So when he's kind of explaining how everything has worked and how he's led them to this place and he's known what's going to happen all along, and you have to learn something for the quest. Yeah, it just feels like religion. That's what religion is.
Yeah.
And the all-knowing God. And it's not the benevolent God, it's the all-knowing God. And the macroeconomic God, not the microeconomic God.
Yes. Yeah. The one who has everything in place to make the ring continue to move, and not the one who cares about the hairs on your head.
Right.
Or whatever. Yeah.
When she was like, it felt personal to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He has no interest in the New Testament version of the lilies of the valley. See how things, your Father in heaven clothes all of them. Will he not care for you? And counting the hairs on your head and all of that. That is a different version of the God that we see mimicked in He Who Remains, who is, yes, conflated God and devil. And at the same time, I don't want to get super theological, but if you actually read Genesis, it's not the devil. It's not any kind of Satan. It is just a serpent. And he is considered a heavenly being, which is really kind of the fact that Israelites were not monotheistic. They were monolatrous. They believed in other gods. They just only worshiped Yahweh. It's a whole thing. My point being, yes, he's conflated with God and the devil, but he also appears sitting on that little bench in that little elevator in the same pose that we saw from the very first episode, where we see the devil in the stained glass window in that French church. he's sitting almost exactly like that stained glass devil. That
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, like it's like as soon as he sat there, I was like, oh, he's meant to be that one that I don't know. It was just very one for one for me.
He just had a way of playing that character that was just, it was like he was like super chill, but then also at any second he was gonna, the static, like the,
Mm-hmm.
But then it also came back to the theme of with the old Loki, I'm old and I'm tired. And I know we've talked about this before, but it kind of reminds me of The Good Place, where you go to heaven and you get bored with it, and then you finally just decide, like, I'm done with this. Like, at some point, there has to be an end.
Yes,
Eternity is not all it's cracked up to be.
Right, immortality is not the thing that we expect it to be. In the end, it's too much for most people. But even he who remains knows somehow, I guess because he has seen all and he's gone through all these scenarios, that he doesn't even end. He's like, reincarnation, baby. Like, he's going to be right back where he was because the multiversal war that he won is now underway again. It's not a new multiversal war. Like we were saying in the very, very beginning, the very first episode of the podcast where we talked about how the TVA was formed and they talk about the multiversal war. And I was like, that's what we're headed toward. We're headed toward that war. We're not coming out of it. So the sacred timeline, it's a chicken or egg thing. Like,
oh, and she's like, I've been around I've been pruned before you even existed. And I'm like, well, how old? Like, again, yeah, my brain breaks.
Yeah. I mean, I think that one caught me up the first time I saw it. That line, I was pruned before you ever existed. Because A, she wasn't pruned until she self-pruned. And that was like a minute ago, right? But I think she meant my timeline. My reality was pruned
right
before you ever existed, which only works if she's been going back and forth in and out of, apocalypses for over thousands and thousands of years, because Loki is a demigod who's been around for thousands and thousands of years. So I think it was just like kind of a one-off line, and they didn't really put a lot of thought into why she was saying that thing. But I also, like, my brain went like,
well, my kid looked at me and she's like, well, which one is actually, of all the Lokis, which one is the real Loki?
I mean, I think that they all are, and that's the point, is that there's no one way in which Loki is supposed to be. We have our Loki, and he feels the most real to us, but he's not, the full version of who Loki's supposed to be. I mean, if you want to go straight to it, it seems like classic Loki probably has the most longevity. And yet, when Loki introduces him to Mobius, he says, this is Loki from the future. Mm-hmm. Like, it's future Loki, because he's the oldest. So he's lived the longest, but maybe he is, it's universes stacked on top of universes. It's not, there was this and then there was this, and we're still thinking linearly, and that's not what's going on.
Which is why I would be a terrible physicist.
Oh, 100%. I couldn't even take statistics, and that's not even physics. But it was like, that's too much math. That's too much probability. I can't handle it. Put me back in AP calculus, stat. I cannot do statistics or physics. I'm out.
And then when he's like, so I was this scientist in the 31st century, my first thought was, okay, so Earth lasts that long? Interesting. And then I go off and find, I've discovered this thing. And so I was like, oh, so like a nerd started all of this. Good job, nerds.
My thought was there's still an Earth in another 10 centuries, and we're not like back to hunter-gatherer land. Like, we still have science. And
he was wearing a lab coat.
Yeah.
And like he was working for Merck or for
he had a tie on.
Biogen.
Like, I was like, your Victorian standards of the rest are still sticking around for 10,000 years? Come on, man. Oh, wait a minute.
Well, I mean, I feel we should keep shedding more clothing. At what point do we just where nudity is just the thing?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we're going to hit an ice age, and then we're just going to go back to barbarianism.
Ooh, furs.
Ooh, Ice Planet barbarians.
My Nook that I ordered on eBay, not a Nook, a Kindle that I ordered on eBay.
Just so you can read Ice Planet barbarians?
Yes. I refuse to buy a brand new one from Amazon. I'm like, I'm not supporting Jeff Bezos in that way. And then the ones that I want, like a Paperwhite, they're so expensive.
Yeah,
And I was like, I'm not spending $100. I'm not spending $80. I'm not spending $100. So I just went to eBay and I found a refurbished old version for like $20. And I'm like, I will spend that.
Yes, Andy just said it always goes back to Ice Planet Barbarians. We have not brought up Ice Planet Barbarians on a single episode of our Loki series. It's in our brain. It's in the zeitgeist. It is the moment, and we have to talk about it.
It is the moment.
It is the moment. Although I've been talking about it for 4 years, and you guys are just catching up. But yeah, I don't give money to Amazon either, except my Kindle Unlimited subscription and my Prime subscription. And what else?
Yeah, my Prime subscription. And then I think, oh, well, I already have Prime. It's free shipping. I might as well just buy this thing, on Amazon.
Yeah. God.
I haven't watched anything on Prime, though, since we finished rewatching The Americans. So maybe I should reconsider if I need it.
I think I need it. I think I'd feel very weird if I got rid of it. And I hate to say that. I don't buy any I don't buy any books from Amazon. But it's very difficult to cut that particular cord.
No, Andy. So Andy says, I don't have a Kindle. Can I still read those? No.
Yes.
They're like, well, you can get the Kindle app.
Yes.
But then you'd have to read on your phone, which or your iPad.
Or an iPad.
I refuse to read anything on that type of screen. So I need like a backlit Paperwhite Nook screen.
Yeah. So that's Amy's problem. She won't read it for free on her Kindle app. That's her issue.
It won't be for free though. I would still have to pay for the books, right?
Not if you get Kindle Unlimited, which is $10 a month.
Okay. Well, that's not free.
Yes, but in terms of how many of those you're going to read in a month and how quickly they go, it's worth it.
Okay.
So get Kindle Unlimited.
Fine.
And I mean, I had a Nook that had apps on it. The Nook that I used to have, I had the Kindle app on it, and I read Kindle on my Nook. Y'all's Nook is not a regular tablet?
No. It's just a backlit black and white.
Okay. I gave my Nook to my dad for Christmas a few years ago, and I preloaded it with a ton of Tom Clancy novels because that's what he likes to read. And at the time, Oyster was still a thing, so I got him 3 months of an Oyster subscription and just preloaded a bunch of PDFs on there that he would like, and he still hasn't figured out how to use it. So I should probably just get it back from him.
I used to, up until a few months ago, I was an analyst in the printing and publishing and packaging world, anything paper-based. And I remember when Oyster came out and writing about them and everyone talking about how it was going to change the paradigm. And
it didn't.
It's dead. It's fun to go to. I recently, within the last 6 months, have gone to the Wikipedia page and read about Oyster and its demise. It was quite delightful.
Yeah. It sucks because sometimes things pop up Vine, for instance, is so great and it had this, all these different creators and stuff like that. And then it has this horrible demise and you're like, oh, that sucks. And something like Oyster, which I actually really liked at the time, and it also just dissolves into the ether. It gets snapped by Thanos. The TVA comes and prunes our reality that was Vine and Oyster. And now we have to contend with having to get Kindle Unlimited in order to read these amazing alien porn books. So,
but I don't think Oyster would even, in the beginning, wasn't it just Simon and Schuster and that was the only publishing house they had?
Yeah, it was pretty limited.
Yeah.
It's like if you use Chirp for audiobooks, they're super limited. But I mean, if you don't care, if you're not looking for specific things, you just want to have audiobooks, Chirp is a good option, right? Same thing with Oyster.
I've never listened to an audiobook.
You're missing out. I mean, thankfully, audio narrators do not swallow margaritas directly into the microphone like I've done 10 times tonight. So it's really pleasant. And I didn't listen to audiobooks for a long time. And then when Serial came out on podcast form, and I realized that I did not have to listen to music on my commute, but I could listen to people talking without ads and without the crackly sound of the radio, which I truly, truly hate. I became an audiobook fan, but I don't listen to them that much, but I do listen to them. I do like it.
Yeah, I mean, I listen to a ton of podcasts. I just haven't ever listened to an audiobook.
It's one for one. It's the exact same feeling. If you like a podcast, especially long form, not epistolary, but narrative podcasts, you would definitely like.
I don't. I like things like Las Culturistas, where Bowen Yang is talking about like how his butthole hurts right now on Fire Island. That's what I like.
I haven't listened to a lot of podcasts lately. I've been doing other things like being on TikTok.
Making TikTok.
Spending too much time making TikToks that don't go as viral as I would like for them to go. Anyway, guys, follow us at the cool_table. Just go. We're good. Anyway, so let's talk some more about Loki. So in the podcast this week, I talked about how I didn't feel like their relationship was romantic, and it was bothering me because everything felt so puppy love, very middle school, very kind of almost just, he was infatuated with her, but in a very strange, non-sexual way. And then after we recorded that, I looked up some interviews with both the director and the writer. And the reason that it feels like that, like it feels romantic, but also not, is because the writer wrote it to be a romance and the director doesn't think it's a romance. So they're like at odds with the writing and how she's directing them. So you've got like, Tom Hiddleston and Sophie DiMartino, like playing these romantic scenes the way they're written and yet being directed in ways that are not meant to be that way. And I think that has to be why it feels so off.
Are they in the interviews together or they're saying these things separately?
Separately. Yeah, it's very odd, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But it's indicative of why it's never felt cohesive. I mean, it has to be it. Like if you've got basically a showrunner here and a showrunner there, and they have differing views of the main relationship of the show, you're going to get what we have, which is, you being like, yes, kiss, love it. And I'm like, oh, but no, it's not quite there for me yet. Like, how did you feel when they kissed?
I thought it was a terrible kiss. It reminded me of Heidi's recap of this week's The Bachelor and one of the Bachelorette, and one of the bachelors was like, how bad of a kisser am I? And I was like, as bad as that, I think. It didn't feel. And then when she turned him around on the second viewing, I was like, I don't think she's even really kissing him back. I think she's just trying to move him so she can grab the Tim pad to push him into the TVA.
Yeah,
I feel like it's all there for him.
And not
but
for
then
her.
I'm just like, well, I feel like I think it is there for her. And again, she's so set on revenge and she can't think of anything else. And that's why she said to him, I've been around longer than before you were a twinkle in Odin's eye, even though Odin's not his real dad, to basically say this has been her entire quest. His quest is to not be lonely anymore. And her quest is to get revenge.
Yeah. It's very different. But
and that's when he said, you can't trust and I can't be trusted.
Right. So Andy just said she loved it. She screamed. I also screamed, but in a what? Like I just like I was just like, nah. Purely said it was weird. Even the way he was touching her was so bizarre. And this is one thing that I noticed. He did the same thing he did before, where we said he should have been cupping her face. He should have gone for the doll. And he's grabbing her upper arms, which I detest. I hate that move. Don't touch my upper arms. I don't want to feel your hands right here. Nope. I don't like it. But it felt so awkward. And
I don't like this move.
No, but a hand on the jaw with a thumb near the lip.
Oh,
that's
so like when you thumb the lip a little bit,
right? Or just kind of.
He did that in Pretty in Pink.
Oh gosh, that move is hot. So if you think about the fact that they were in a romantic scene and Tom Hiddleston is playing it beautifully. I mean, he is heartbroken that they are not on the same page. He is devastated that this woman doesn't know his heart for her. He is pouring it out. He's like, I don't want to hurt you. Sylvie, stop. It is precious. And yet he grabs her upper arms. No, that is bad direction, because a romantic man, a man who is pouring out everything he can to this woman to get her to see him, would grab her face.
Oh,
he would
yeah.
grab her
Hand
face.
in the hair.
Yeah.
Her perfect barrel curl hair.
Yes. And
which
even
mine is
like
not looking like tonight.
a big hand like on a rib cage where the other thumb is like right under a boob. This thumb is right under, the mouth with the hand in the hair, thumb under the mouth. This hand is on a rib cage with the thumb right under the boob. That is a thing you want to see. That's romance. Upper arms, that's distance. That's middle school,
He needs to hike up her leg and swoop her around.
I mean, I don't even need that. I just
Dirty Dancing style.
If it was meant to be that, if it was meant to be the romantic moment, yes. But in the trying to get her to see him moment,
yeah,
those are not the places on the body you go. It just, the arms are not it. And he did
this
it twice.
feels more like aggressive, like listen to me.
Yeah.
And especially because what was coming out of his mouth was true love. I just want you to get what you want or to be happy or whatever.
Be okay. He's like,
be okay. I want you to be okay.
At the end of time, he can get whatever it is he wants. He can get a throne at the end of time. And what he wants is for her to be okay. That's romance. And yet, it does not look like romance. It looks like distance. Purely said, exactly, his physical actions didn't match his emotions. And Andy said, yes, but don't you think it's a little indicative of the fact that they weren't really on the same page? Like that was almost a desperation move. Yes, it is desperation. I just think it's desperation in he needs her to see him. He needs her to hear him. And he can't get that because she can't trust him. And it's just so convoluted.
He needs her to believe him.
Mm-hmm.
Which is what trust is. Believe me, the words that are coming out of my mouth or what is in my heart, that is what trust is.
Mm-hmm.
And
she can't do it.
Yeah, not yet. Season 2, she might be able to.
I wish we'd gotten a little bit more of her face after she kills He Who Remains and falls on her butt, because I'd like to see more of her real heart feelings in that moment, which we just didn't get. But we did say in the episode 5 podcast that there was going to be betrayal of some sort. And it made the most sense for it to be Sylvie betraying Loki. But she probably doesn't feel that way. She probably feels like he betrayed her in some real way.
Yeah, betraying her by trying to convince her to not go through with her one true purpose.
Yeah. But things had changed. Like it was very obvious that it was more dangerous, or maybe it's not obvious. Is it more dangerous to give the entire universe free will than to let this guy go and let him live?
Well, he was also not even really asking her for a lot, except for like, can you just slow down? He asked her for 1 minute. And yeah, let's talk about this. Because I think as soon as she stabs him, the jerk, that she's like, oh shit, now what? Not just like now what, like what happens, but like even if we had decided together we're going to stab him, now we're still here at the end of time. Yeah, you have but yeah, it was like they couldn't even.
What would the bureaucracy be? Like, how was he going to Willy Wonka hand it to Charlie and let him, be the chocolatier now? Like, what was the handoff process? Because with him dead, Loki says, with the dictator is gone, something has to fill the void. And that's true. But, the jerk was going to let them fill the void. And how was that handoff going to work? Was he going to still remain and they were going to just, be enthroned? I mean, obviously he knew that he wasn't going to make it out of that room. And yet he wasn't giving them any like, hey guys, if I do this, here's how you keep the timeline sacred. Here's how you keep it going and keep it working. He didn't give them any information.
Or even if you want to say, well, yeah, we're going to kill him and that we're going to destroy the TVA. Okay. But still then like, what after that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where are we going?
Yeah. And so speaking of where they go and what happens to the TVA, killing him does not destroy the TVA. Instead, what it seems like it did is create different versions of it. Or,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't think, at least, that Loki goes back to the TVA that he knows
Right.
and is, somehow dealing with the same people that have just, their minds have been wiped. It looks like a different place.
Because as soon as he says, I don't know what happens after this, you see out the window, everything is already starting to branch off.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't know where she sent him.
Right.
There is no more, there is still the sacred timeline, but lots of other
Mm-hmm.
branches that are coming off of it.
Yeah. And big ones in some cases, like big cracks in that timeline that are going to, be very, very different. So when Loki does get back, he is not recognized by Mobius and B-15 at all.
Do you need me, Ruby? My kid just stuck her head in.
I know, I saw. But yeah, he's not recognized by them. Mobius is like, oh, you're an analyst. And that's when he looks and sees that Kang the Conqueror is the timekeeper.
Yeah.
She's not, B-15 is not saying they need us to do anything or the timekeepers need this. She's saying he. There's also no Renslayer. Like, it looks like B-15 and Mobius are dealing directly with Kang or directly with whoever they think the timekeeper is.
Yeah.
He wants this. So it looks like there needs to be somebody. There's not a middleman anymore now that Renslayer is gone.
And then the music started. The dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which my kid loves for me. I'd like to sing that to her after every episode.
Of course she
dun,
does.
Dun, dun, dun. Are they going to release this soundtrack? Because I can seriously listen to that.
Oh, yeah, for
cleaned.
Sure. Yeah. Andy just said, I'm dying to know where she went. Renslayer says that she goes off in search of free will. And earlier, she tells Mobius that the only person that has free will is the one in charge. So also Renslayer in the comics is Kang's girlfriend. So, yeah. So I think that we are seeing the genesis of Renslayer going off to a timeline in which she rules with Kang, because Kang is the only one who's going to have free will.
Kang is hot for teacher. Got it bad, got it bad,
Aren't we all? Purely
don't feel tardy.
Purely says there were signs in the library stacks that were different. They were not TVA. That stood out to me. I noticed that the numbers were different on like the far, the stacks. Like it used to be like 3FL and now it's like TSA or something like that. So it was just, they were just different. They didn't have the numbers. They were just different ones. And I didn't know if it was like he's supposed to be on a different floor. I didn't look at any closer at any of the other details to see if it was a completely different place. That little lunchroom where the time clock is with all the different hands and minutes, that's the first place he goes. And I'd like to maybe kind of look at that and see if it's a totally different room. But we already know that the structure of that TVA is different because we have one timekeeper and he's Kang, instead of the three, showbiz pizza guys.
A little bit different Knoll furniture in the lunchroom.
Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
I noticed that it had the seating that's airport seating.
Oh, did it?
Yeah. Like where you can't lay down.
Mm.
Everyone's got the armrests.
Yeah. Just the little butt indentation. Then that's what you get to sit in. There's no like flat surface. It's just like, here's where your cheeks are. There's armrests. Yeah.
The black leather with the.
Yes. So Andy just says, Kang has a thing with her, doesn't he? I'd love to see that. Yeah. That's kind of that's the way it's probably going, is that Ravonna is off to be Kang's babo.
I hate her. I don't know if it's the actress, the way she plays Ravonna, but I just feel like it feels very high school, like theater production.
She's a little bit of a melodrama villain.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't have conviction in the evil part of what she's doing. It just feels like she's allowing herself to be a puppet. And so that kind of feels, I don't know, like wishy-washy and boring. And you
can see right through her.
Unfeminist is how she feels. I want her to like kick ass because she knows that she's good at kicking ass. I don't want her to do it because she feels obligated to do it or she's going to, lose her job. And,
She was like, this has to be for something.
Yeah. Yeah. But we did find out what her little pen was for, what the Franklin Roosevelt High pen was for. So I would like to know if there's anybody in the chat who felt like they were let down that this didn't automatically kind of bust into the multiverse, into the MCU. Like it didn't give us Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man, and we didn't see Wanda, and we don't see Doctor Strange, and we don't see any of that stuff. And so there's it's there, but it's not there. And I wonder if people are kind of sad about it.
What did you think about the opening Marvel sequence? They have all of the different Wakanda Forever, and then you have, then they go off into another universe, and then you hear Malala, you hear
Maya Angelou.
Yep. And then I thought, do they have to get permission from her estate to put her voice in a Marvel show? Or Greta Thunberg, or
maybe. I would
Nelson
think so.
Mandela, like all of these people that are about making the world better and freedom and
right. And it's like they exist. I think what that's trying to do is one, establish that there's the universe that we know. So there are these quotes from the MCU characters that we're aware of. And again, like the first one we hear maybe is Greta Thunberg or Neil Armstrong or somebody like that. What's the other guy's name?
No. It was Buzz Lightyear.
No. It's Buzz Aldrin, right?
Was it Neil Armstrong from the first lunar landing?
Yeah.
I was not alive then by 4 years.
I think that they were showing us that there's a universe that we're aware of, which is what we assume the sacred timeline is. And then we move to that other universe, and yet you still hear things that we know, and you still hear people that have existed in our universe. And so it's letting us know that you're going to maybe be entering universes, definitely going to be entering universes that look and feel and sound and have the history that we're used to, that are exactly like ours. But you're going to get up there and, Captain America's never going to have happened, or Spider-Man's going to be Andrew Garfield, or, whatever. There's going to be differences in all of these universes when Marvel decides to throw that phase 4 out there.
Is that a part of the phase 4, like the older? Because is Spider-Man the only person who's changed since all the Marvel stuff really started happening?
Well, he didn't actually change. So Sony owned Spider-Man.
Okay.
And that is why we have other Spider-Man movies. And they also owned X-Men, because X-Men is Marvel as well. And there is crossover between the X-Men and the Avengers, and all of them, have crossover. So there's other Quicksilvers. Then we talked about that. We talked about how it's not Evan Peters. Whatever. Quicksilver guy.
Mikey Day.
Yeah. Is in WandaVision as Quicksilver because he is the Quicksilver from the X-Men franchise, but not Quicksilver from the MCU franchise. And so they tried to make it not a thing in WandaVision, where it was just like Agatha had enchanted some guy that lived in Westview. But the reality is that they were probably meshing the multiverse together because now Marvel has the rights to some of that stuff, and they have the rights to Spider-Man, obviously. That's why we got Spider-Man in MCU.
Okay. And how does Deadpool fit into all this? Because I saw Deadpool stuff on Twitter this week.
Yeah, Deadpool has been kind of an outlier. It's almost like the MCU is a timeline right here, and Deadpool is on it, but he's up here. Mm-hmm. The same thing with kind of Luke Cage and Jessica Jones and those shows, those actually do mesh into the MCU, but you never see any of those heroes in those shows. They just kind of allude to them. And Deadpool's been outside of it, where it's not happening, but he's still doing his thing. And he just did a little thing with, what's his name? Krog? The one that's
Are you asking me to confirm that?
The guy who is the big rock guy that has the New Zealand accent is played by Taika Waititi in the Thor movies. You first find him in Thor Ragnarok. And they did a little ad, I guess, with Deadpool and that character. So they deliberately pulled Deadpool into the MCU just in this random thing the other day, like yesterday. Korg. Thank you, Purely. Korg. I don't know why I could. Kang and Korg, and I couldn't think of his name. Korg. Thank you.
Where did the Smurfs fit into all of this?
The Smurfs are in the bad place with Rainbow Bright and other things that my parents wouldn't let me consume in the 80s because they were satanic.
I'm gonna have an asthma attack. What were you kept from Strawberry Shortcake? Were you kept from My Little Pony?
I could have Strawberry Shortcake and did.
Okay.
My Little Pony, I doesn't feel like was a thing really for me. I could definitely do Muppets, and I just saw the Muppet Babies entire Muppet Babies will make our dreams come true. Muppet Babies will do the same for you.
And then right after Muppet Babies, Pee-wee's Playhouse came on.
That's right. I could do Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Come on in and pull yourself up a chair like Cherry.
Yep. So
it's time to let down your hair.
Everybody's asking me about my incredibly evangelical upbringing. Yes, we could do Fraggle Rock. I very much liked Fraggle Rock. Purely just said Scooby-Doo was dangerous, but Scooby-Doo was fine in my household. Rainbow Bright, I believe. I don't remember what was wrong with Rainbow Bright. When we could do Care Bears, even though they were kind of evil, I guess, on the same scale as the Smurfs.
Because they used magic? Was that what it was?
The Smurfs was specifically because Smurfette did levitation.
But like Miss Piggy was like a hoe for show, and they were out there like muppet it up.
It's like there's just like this weird thing, like if James Dobson said, or Charles Colson said like one thing about a thing and they happened to hear it, it was over. But like they didn't really have discernment or critical thinking skills about what we were watching. Like when I was little, I remember we watched Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves every day because my mom's like Kevin Costner. And that movie has like a witch, like a whole ass witch in it, like real sorcery going on. And she didn't care. So, I mean, what did the Smurfs have to do with anything? It's just bonkers.
Do you ever bring this up to your parents now? Like how nutty that was?
Yeah, they just will be like, we didn't care if you watched the Smurfs. And I'm like, yes, you did. Yes, you did. So, yeah. They don't know what they don't know. Basically.
I mean, I was raised Southern Baptist, but my parents, they had major benign neglect, so I could basically watch anything. I could not watch Fraggle Rock because we didn't have cable or HBO. I think Fraggle Rock was on HBO or something. It was on cable.
It could not have been because I know I saw it. I think maybe Fraggle Rock
was older than you. So when it first, I think that when I was in the younger stages.
I feel like it came out like as a mini series. It was one of those things like if you were going to watch The Blue and the Gray, you had to be home for 4 nights in a row to watch it on ABC, like to, and I feel like Fraggle Rock was like that. It was one of those like special mini series. It was going to be on network television, but you had to be home April 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th to see it.
Gosh, when North and South was on, it was like, or in Maine, Alicia, what rape scene from Fraggle Rock? What are you watching?
I think she's talking about Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Played to major comedic effect. Like when he when he sticks his feet down and sticks your legs out.
Yes, yes. Oh God. I mean, I used to say this is the first time I remember learning that bastard was a bad word because I knew all the lines to that movie. And as a little kid, I would say all the lines of movies that I knew as they were being said. I was super annoying. And the friar says something like, these poor bastards who are about to stretch. And I just like saying it as he says it. And my mom was like, don't say that word. I'm like, but we watch this movie every day. I don't even know what that means.
Remember how bad Kevin Costner's accent was in that movie?
Yes. Remember how bad his hair was? He had a full mullet.
I didn't mind the mullet. I mean, I want to get remarried just so I can dance to everything I do. I do it for you at the end.
So good. So good.
And I would lie for you.
That is a great song.
Please, I want to watch, you know how like YouTube will put up like fan videos? So it's like, it'll be like Keira Knightley kissing,
yes.
And it's like set to like a Josh Groban song.
Yes.
Can someone please do that to Loki? And I almost called her Phoebe, to Sophie And
Sylvie.
Sylvie, I'm not even like, I barely drink any of this. And put it to that song, please.
Oh my God, that'd be so good. A fan vid circa 2009, put a few sparkles on it. Loki and Sylvie to Everything I Do it for you. I'd lie for you. I'd die for you. Walk a while for you. I can't sing anymore.
Yeah, I die for you.
You know it's true.
Everything
oh my God. That'd be so good. I'm thinking about his face. I'm thinking about
yes.
He's so good.
How do you make those videos?
Out. Oh my God. So good.
I would sit when I had my previous job like 15 years ago, and I would be bored, and I would watch like ones of like Pam and Jim.
Oh, hell yes. There were some super good ones. And they were always to like Travis and the Shins and stuff that like John Krasinski actually listened to. And be like, we have to do it to the songs that John Krasinski likes. Like this one's going to be Death Cab. And
they're like, was this on the Garden State soundtrack? Then cool. Mm-hmm. We're going to make a video of Pam and Jim.
Yep.
Do Sophie and Loki have
Sylvie?
A ship? Shit. Do Sylvie and Loki have a shipper name?
I don't know. Loki squared.
Slokey.
Lovey.
I
really like when He Who Remains called them Loki and Loki.
Mm-hmm.
I like the reminder that that's who she is. I feel like by calling her Sylvie, they allowed us distance that I don't think really served a good purpose. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed when he called her Loki. It gives it gravitas that calling her Sylvie allows us to forget. Calling female Loki Sylvie is the same move as our Loki putting his hands on her upper arms. It distances who they really are to one another from each other.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same narrative move, and I didn't like it in either case.
Did the director explain why she felt, or he, I don't know, was it a man or a woman for that episode?
A woman.
Did she explain why? Oh, so it was like wasn't she a writer or she was just the director?
I think she was just the director, yeah.
Why she didn't feel that they were lusty, why she didn't.
No, I didn't read anything about why she said that. That's not what the interview that I said. Andy said that their couple name is Silky, which of course it is. We're idiots.
That sounds like a lube.
It does sound like a lube, but also, it's its own mythical creature. Purely says they never explained her name either. They didn't explain it, but it is an MCU, like it is a Marvel character thing. Sylvie is, created by the Enchantress, but she is a Loki who becomes Sylvie because the Enchantress like changes who she is or some shit like that.
Mm.
So, but they didn't explain it. She was just like, that's not my name. My name is Sylvie. And we're like, well, okay.
Well, she could be like, I picked it.
The MCU doesn't do that a lot. They give us characters that if you know the comic books or you can wiki the comics or whatever, you can figure out who they're supposed to be. But that doesn't mean that that's exactly who they are within this cinematic universe. So it almost kind of doesn't matter who Sylvie is supposed to be or whether or not she's really the Enchantress. Mm-hmm. That's why I wish they had been calling her Loki. It just would have been cooler, I think.
She should know like more of a play on it. Like, I'm not Loki, I'm Lucky.
I'm Slokey. I'm a slut Loki.
Like Lucky. Like, isn't she lucky?
Yeah, very cute. So I do want to talk about how this show compares to Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which I know you haven't watched, and WandaVision. For me, this one has the most satisfying ending, but it also feels like the only one that is an actual show. Like the TVA exists outside of the MCU, and WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier feel like movie bridges. Like they're just these bridges that we're taking over the tunnels, to get us from Endgame to, Quantumania, or from Endgame to Multiverse of Madness. They are the bridges to those movies. So their endings don't feel like a full arc of a television show the way that Loki's does. I just feel like this was far more satisfying in terms of each character, each story, everything kind of came to some sort of full arc. What do you think?
I agree with you. I feel like I did not watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but I feel like WandaVision felt like you can get like in the romance world, how there'll be like established characters or like families of characters. It'd be as if within Bridgerton, Julia Quinn gave us like a little novella of somebody, like a prologue kind of, or epilogue kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's what it felt like to me.
Yeah.
And this felt like its own thing, its own show. And I also feel like Marvel understands what it has. I don't think that they love the character Loki so much as they love Tom Hiddleston playing Loki. And they realize what they have. And they're going to, which I appreciate, milk it for all it's worth and give him his own thing. Like he's watchable. Like I watch this. I don't give a shit about Marvel. So not say that like in a negative way. I will go to a Marvel movie, but I watched this 100% because it was like Tom Hiddleston and it looked cool. And oh yeah, like Owen Wilson is there.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely came out of the fact that not only was he a fan favorite, but he super understood the character, loved playing the character, has no desire, at least didn't, probably still doesn't, to kind of quit playing the character. I think there's like an interview where he just is like, it would have been like the last time he was going to play him before this was announced. And he's like upset about it. You know, like it's, you know, like the realization that it might be over, or that it was over at that time. So, I mean, it fully comes out of the fact that he's so good. He's so watchable. He became such a huge star and is the perfect kind of secondary character to continue to explore. I mean, they're not going to go off crazy with Cate Blanchett as Hela because, I mean, she's Cate Blanchett and she doesn't like have the time, I'm guessing, to like do a whole thing. Or even some of the other ones. I mean, I think they could do it with like, crap, her name escapes me. Jillian, whatever her name is, that plays Blue Girl. Why can't I think of names? What's wrong with my brain?
What?
Thanos's daughter. Oh, you don't know Marvel shit.
Oh no, you guys made me watch the Avengers.
I know, but all of a sudden I can't think of her name.
With Karen Gillian or whatever her name is?
Yes.
Yeah.
Karen Gillian. And what did I say? Jillian something?
You said Jillian.
I don't know anything anymore. But anywho, like they could do an entire show about her. Easy. Nebula. Thank you, Andy. But yeah, they could do something with her. They could do something, but Loki had this, he just has magic because Tom Hiddleston's magic. They could do it with Tessa Thompson too and Valkyrie if they wanted, but they're going to do a lot of that with Thor Love and Thunder. So it's coming. But yeah, Andy just said of all three, Loki was my fave, followed very closely by WandaVision. Falcon and the Winter Soldier just felt like a Captain America 4 setup. Purely said the set design on all three shows is phenomenal. They all look so different. That's very true. I said before, I didn't love WandaVision. It felt super stylized to me. I felt like the exploration of her grief was secondary to the hook of that show. They were trying really, really hard to make it look how they wanted it to look, but it was less about really what they were trying to explore and more about, you know, every episode's a new decade kind of thing. And
it was a thing. It was like I swear I'm not tipsy, but I also cannot form words. I read a really good Twitter thread this week. I'll try to find it and send it to you. About how WandaVision kind of failed for that person because it was trying to explore trauma on screen, and trauma doesn't really, it's so internal, and trauma also doesn't really work in a linear fashion. It's not like you kind of just deal with it.
Yeah.
like episode to episode to episode and then have a conclusion and then your trauma is wrapped up and then in the end she's just like, I'm just going to burn it all to the ground. Like that's not really how trauma and grief worked.
Yeah.
And it really made me think of why Outlander works as a book series but doesn't work some parts of it on screen. So especially season 2, Jamie trying to overcome his grief and trauma of being, kidnapped and raped and brutalized, how that's not fun and also interesting to watch on screen because so much of that happens internally.
Yep.
And I don't know why I started down this path. Oh, we were talking about WandaVision. But like I think that WandaVision it was trying to explore her grief, and that's just not so great of a thing to watch over 30-minute episodes over however many episodes it was.
Yeah, and it's meant to be this quirky sitcom, and that is not the medium for it. And I get that like she's trying to cover her grief with like something that made her happy in the past. Like she had all of it. She was a child. She loved watching American sitcoms, and it's supposed to be like a coping mechanism. But the actual function of the sitcom gave room for only quirkiness. And when you got into the reality of what was really going on, kind of the record scratch of it, I think was meant to show the trauma, but instead felt to me like just an incongruous way to tell that story or to really delve into what she was really doing. And I'm not saying that it needed to be like a heavy drama. It didn't need that. I feel like they took Wanda and Vision and put together WandaVision, and they worked backwards from that title, that's what they were doing, was working backwards from the idea that it was going to be WandaVision, and I just not sure that was the best way to go. So it was not my favorite. If I was going to put them in order, it would be Loki and then Falcon and the Winter Soldier and then WandaVision, even though there are things that happen in WandaVision that I think were great. As a show, I preferred Falcon and the Winter Soldier for that reason. Purely just said WandaVision is her favorite of the three, but Loki did the most to move the story forward in the Marvel Universe. Falcon and the Winter Soldier was good. Wait for me to spend the time with my boys. And she loved that Paul Bettany got to show his range, and it had the best humor. I love me some Paul Bettany. I love that he started out as a voice in the MCU and became a super hot leading man in the MCU who has to wear a ridiculous amount of makeup. I feel bad for him. Also, he's the skinniest man alive. And he is also, I've said this before, my best friend thinks that Paul Bettany has Jamie Fraser's face. So to just bring it full scale back to Outlander, go look at Paul Bettany's face and see if you think, if he was redheaded and a little bit bigger, if you think he's Jamie Fraser, because my best friend's been saying that for about 10 or 15 years. And I never agreed with her. Yes, if he was bigger, because he is super skinny. He's skinnier than Tom Hiddleston. He's skinnier than all of them. Skinnier than Benedict Cumberbatch. He's so skinny. But, Andy just said, I wonder if he's slimmer than Tom. Yes, he is. I saw them together on the same stage. He's much skinnier. And, but his face, Jamie Fraser's face. I had to apologize to my friend for that because I think she was correct. He does have Jamie Fraser's face. It works.
He's not my Jamie, but I get it. I see it.
He's more my Jamie's face than Sam Heughan is my Jamie's face. So I'll just throw that out there.
Yeah, Sam Heughan isn't my Jamie, but I feel like my Jamie, the hair is much more Thor-ish for me than they've ever done on. Even when I first read Outlander, I completely just ignored the fact that he had kind of like a shorn head at the beginning of Outlander. I was like, no, you've got Thor hair. This is how I'm going to see you.
No, I think I remember him having short hair. That part matters to me. But it wasn't curly ever. Never, ever, ever curly. So there's that to it. But anywho.
Even though I do think that season 1, Jamie is hot.
Of course he is. Totally is. But then no longer. Anyway, this is not an Outlander podcast. This is Loki, and it's over.
So we've been saying, earlier we said margaritas when she said a bazillion boogeymen.
Yes.
I loved that.
Yeah. I love her
And she's like, oh,
accent.
you're a liar. These are all lies.
It's fiction. She does that thing with her mouth that
Fiction.
like
It's very
Keira
Mick
Knightley.
Jagger.
Keira Knightley does that thing where you can see
Liar.
all of her lower gums. It's fiction.
Yes. Oh, Keira Knightley, the
Fiction.
queen of lip acting.
Yes. She does a little bit of that bottom lip.
So does
fiction thing.
Renslayer. That's why I don't like her.
Well,
It's very. Where's the girl who plays the woman who plays Sophie Skelton? What's her name? Sylvie.
Brianna.
Yes. Where's she from? What part of the UK?
Actual Sophie Skelton, where is she from?
No, I don't give a shit about Sophie Skelton.
Recast
Brianna.
Sophie DiMartino?
Sylvie. Yes.
I do not know.
Maybe
where she's
that's
from.
why I'm putting Sophie and Sylvie. Her real name is Sophie.
Yes.
See?
Yeah, I'm not sure where she's from, but I like that.
Is she
accent.
from Manchester?
I don't know. I think maybe she's from the north.
Is she from Yorkshire?
I don't know. We are butchering whatever it is we're trying to do, though.
No,
and
I feel like
embarrassing.
my Yorkshire is pretty good. From watching, I watched
probably
some murder
not.
podcasts.
It's probably not. I'm just gonna say it's probably not because they're really hard to do. No, I can't. I do. Who really does stuff well? Have you ever heard a Southern accent done well? No,
Well,
you have
exactly. Jamie from Manchester. Can you please do my Greenville, South Carolina accent, please?
I mean, I really don't think that anybody can actually do like what a Memphis accent sounds like because this is actually what I sound like when I'm tired. I don't sound like how I sound when I'm talking to you on this podcast. I sound like this. If I'm reading Purely's comment, it's WandaVision was my favorite of the three, but Loki did add the most to move the story forward in that Marvel universe. Falcon and the Winter Soldier was a good way for me to spend my time with my boys. That's what I sound like. That's what I sound like.
There's no such thing as a comma or a period in Memphis.
I mean, not really. Not really. And it's also like I don't really like spend any time with my consonants. Like,
what did you think of the marble, all the marble columns in the
you know
house?
What? It reminded me of this fantasy series that I keep seeing that's about, it's like a Midas retelling. Midas, the Golden Touch. I think it's called like Gild and Gleam. It's like and everything is black and gold. And so all I could think about was this series that I probably am going to read soon and not like. So that's all I could think of. Is there something else important about it?
No.
Okay.
It reminded me of the in one of the Newport mansions, the Breakers, there is a marble and onyx billiards room that when in the Gilded Age, they were so rich. One of the Vanderbilts was like, I saw this room over in France and I want you to basically buy this room from this French chateau and bring over every piece of material. And it reminded me of that. It was tacky.
Right. It did have like a little bit of a tacky, faux bougie.
Well, he was wearing a purple like silk, which I feel like, again, is just like, so tacky.
Yeah. But it was different than what we expected, or, I expected like an old wooden, kind of room. And there's just something about the fact that it had a little bit of like the gold in the marble looked like it had been, pumped in, like it wasn't natural. Like it had these strains of golds. It's like he had taken something that was solid and functional and beautiful and had overlaid it with something else to make it something new that wasn't quite what he wanted
had to repair the cracks.
Yeah. Like our friend Karen has this table.
I was getting ready to say Karen's resin toilet table.
So our friend Karen has this table made out of this one piece of giant wood. And she's been living in France, and not in France, in Angola. And I hate that we're telling this story for her. But anyway, so this man has been working on this, new kitchen table for her. And it had this big, had some flaws in it, and had this big flaw at the end of it. It literally looks like, two stumps almost. Like it's just like, it's this big opening, a big V at the bottom of the table. And he was supposed to fill it with blue epoxy, and all of the other, like any kind of other cracks in it, like are going to be filled with this blue epoxy. And he was coordinating with her husband, and he said, I really like the big opening at the end of the table, leave it. And he did, and it was awful. It's like a big hole in their table right where you would eat. It's so weird. So anyway, now it's being redone. She's getting epoxy put in, and that's what I was thinking of when I was looking at these gilded little bits in his marble.
Mm-hmm. But there was an elevator there.
Mm.
Because at first I was like,
tower.
that's going to be a lot of stairs.
It's a tower that is exactly what the pruning sticks are. Did you notice that? That the tower.
No.
So the golden part of the tower.
Yeah, I see it. I see it.
It is the pruning sticks. It's the same. It's the exact same thing. Looks just like them.
I like it.
I mean, it doesn't mean anything, I don't think, but that's what it was.
I mean, the set designer. Oh,
yeah, so
I'm
good.
I want to see this person like do a TED talk. Come to the 92nd Street Y, please.
Bring all of that TVA. See, this is why we need Comic-Con this week, because if we had Comic-Con, we could be going, we could be seeing all the TVA stuff. We could be like in a room with all of the stuff and be taking our pictures with it. But we're not, because Comic-Con is not going on, and I'm sad.
We could be walking around in brown jumpsuits.
Yeah.
Looking fly as hell.
Fly as hell. I actually probably really want to dress up as Ravonna Renslayer at some point, because I love that coat and those shoes.
Mm.
And a tie. I love a woman's, men's wear for women. It's a hot look.
Yeah. That's very Diane Keaton of you.
Mm-hmm. With the little TVA tie clip. Excellent.
Walking around with your little pin that says Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Was it high school? Was it a high school?
It was a high school, yeah.
And she was the principal. Well, she
had
an office. Yeah.
Yeah, because she was like, what are you doing in my school, not my classroom? So,
Mm.
So anyway, that's Loki, you guys. Thank you for being on this journey with us. We're very, very much looking forward to season 2. Thank God they're doing another one. I'm very happy. And tell us your theories in the comments and on Twitter. And follow us on TikTok. It's really fun over there, and I'm lonely.
That sounded like an OnlyFans plea. Come on over, I'm lonely. Can we start an OnlyFans at the Cool Table?
Come on over to our TikTok. For only $9.99 a month.
The way the lighting is behind you right now, yes.
There is no lighting behind me.
I know. It's like just your face is like
Let me get my ring light. Get my ring light out. See if it'll. Hi, guys.
Now it looks like you're just the Scooby-Doo. Well, now you're just Blair Witch Project-ing me.
Hi, guys. Welcome to our YouTube channel. Oh, God, I hate it. Turn it off. Yeah. Anyway. Good night, guys. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. And we will see you guys very soon to talk about other shit.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.